Play you something that the your party nominee had to say about Russia at the time.
This is to Russia. This is, without question, our #1 geopolitical foe. They fight every cause for the world's worst actors.
Now, Mitt Romney took a lot of flack for saying something like that, but I absolutely agree with him, and I actually think that the divide, the ideological divide between Russia and the United States is really growing fast, and I think at the core of that divide is the difference on whether or not any given country can use violence in geopolitics, whether it is through open invasions like that of Iraq, or, for example, the covert support of rebels like in Syria.
No. I mean, I was talking about the Russian massive arming of Saddam Hussein and the Assad dictatorship.
Well, Russia provides weapons through legal contacts, just like the United States provides all those billions worth of weapons to Saudi Arabia. So it is not illegal in international law to arm sovereign governments, whereas when it comes to rebel groups, it's certainly illegal to provide any weapons or non-lethal support to them.
We'll talk about legal. I'll talk about moral issues. There's no such thing as what's legal and illegal for countries to do. It's what's moral or immoral for them to do. And if indeed you are part of a government that doesn't permit that, or doesn't permit the opposition to speak, or like Saddam Hussein murdered his own people, or like Assad, who, by the way, I don't want us to get involved in that, but Assad's had a dictatorship.
It's an interesting issue, because if you believe in the right of people to make a choice, then
yes, it's called self-determination.
Absolutely, you would recognize that. I mean, it's now clear that the majority of Syrian people still support Assad.
I'm not in favor of the United States intervening in Syria.
But you seem to be in favor of supporting the rebels, though.
No, I'm not. And I would not. And I was in favor of supporting the rebels in Afghanistan, because you had Soviet troops there propping up a government that was not reflective of the Afghans. We tried to help the Afghans. It was a mistake on our part to go into Iraq.
But how
and it would be even a mistake to go into
What would be the
Syria.
rule of thumb for determining when to intervene and when not to intervene? Because you brought up the issue of morality, but morality is, of course, a very subjective thing.
We should be supporting, the United States should be supporting, and I would hope that Russia would be supporting elements in different countries that want to create a better world, want to create a situation where...
Well, the rebels in Syria want to create a better world, but they resort to targeted assassinations, decapitating the detainees, car bombings, and all those sorts of atrocities that you can find on YouTube.
I don't know why you're throwing that in my direction. I'm opposed to the United States being in Syria.
But you've been in Congress for, almost a quarter of a century, and throughout this time, the United States supported insurgency in some country, but supported the governments in fighting the, pretty similar insurgent groups in some other countries. And
what are they? What are the
Well, for example, in Nicaragua,
In Nicaragua, you had the government, which was a communist dictatorship, which did not have free elections until we forced them to by supporting the insurgency.
But for example, in Bahrain, where there's also no free elections, or in Saudi Arabia, where you now see popular discontent with the authorities,
That's legitimate. That's legitimate criticism.
Well, and there are many more examples, and I think what that really shows is that there is absolutely no consistency when it comes to determining what is terrorism or what is moral or not. Essentially, what you're arguing is that the United States has more rights under international law than any other country, because the principle of sovereignty is a pillar of international law.
I don't ever argue international law. I argue what's moral and what's immoral.
But this is in the eye of the beholder.
No, it is. There are specific definitions of how you define terrorism, or and what is terrorism, what isn't, what's moral and what's not moral. When you have a dictatorship like you had with the Sandinistas, it's okay, it's all right to support those people who are demanding an election.
But you do understand the danger of such a flexibility, because obviously you seem to believe that you are a moral person, but obviously every single dictator believes that he is a moral person and that he's doing what is best for his people.
Look, the United States is a country that is made up of people from all over the world. We are not one race, we're not one religion, we're not one ethnic group. We've come here from all over the world to show the world that people who are different can actually live in peace and respect the dignity of each individual. We do believe we have more of a responsibility to help those people in various parts of the world who are struggling for freedom.
Well, the responsibility that is certainly not recognized by other countries around the world. But back to the point of the rights and freedoms, there was recently a poll that showed that about 30% of Americans now believe that sooner or later they will have to take up arms to defend their basic rights. And some of them would argue that having this two-tier system of Republicans and Democrats is not really reflective of the political freedoms. Would you agree that the American people have the right to defend or to fight the current system, the current democratic system in the United States, with the arms in their hands?
No, because we have the ability to fight the system because we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of press, and we have free elections.
Again, some would argue that the elections that you have are not really free because you only have a very limited choice, and the difference between the agendas offered by any of the parties is not that big. But because we have just a few minutes left, I would like to...
But that's baloney, just so you know. People have freedom to talk about and organize anything they want, and they can organize the political parties to go in the directions that the people tend to agree with.